Quick preface to the Undertale review. My review format, as usual, is to give you a quick description of the game and the actual review score up front, followed by the major pros and cons, the stuff that made the game lose a whole point or gain a whole point. And finally, I tell you what the replay value of the game is and what I think the actual dollar value of the game might be, roughly. Hey everybody, grab your controllers. It's time for a review of the cult hit Undertale. Just so you know, I am not going to do any story spoilers for this game, but I will be talking about the game's peaceful/violent mechanic quite a bit. Well, if you haven't already heard about this sort of cult classic game, it's a top-down RPG type game, solving puzzles and turn-based battles are basically the name of the game. The central mechanic that makes the game interesting is you can choose whether you're going to fight enemies or try to find a peaceful resolution when you're dealing with them. Pretty interesting option that made the game stand out and I think obviously contributes to its cult classic status. I give it a 6 out of 10, which means I think it's a little bit above average. So, why 6 out of 10? Well, my main problem with the game is it's the trolliest game to ever troll. Okay, in the name of breaking expectations, the game is constantly putting little tricks up against you, right? Right at the beginning of the game here, you're asked, oh, stay in this room until I get back. You can stay there and receive phone calls for, I think it's hours, really. I'm not going to do that. And it's funny at the beginning of the game. The real problem is, after being trolled over and over and over and over again, it's like a joke told too many times. By the end of the game, as you're fighting some of the final enemies in the game and getting really trolled out, there's no surprise left anymore. It's just annoying. And further to that, the game ends up feeling like it's a linear narrative without much choice. The central choice of will you be peaceful or violent is really well done. But other than that, it just doesn't feel like you get to do much in this game. You can try to be peaceful, you can try to be violent. Otherwise, you can do a lot of talking and a lot of story reading. Which, that said, all the linear storytelling and all of the troll moments really do contribute to the game's big pro, which is it is a great work of art. Just as the central peaceful versus violent portion of the game makes you think about, hey, why are RPGs and video games always leading me down a path of violence? Why can't I find a peaceful resolution? The game uses a lot of troll moments too. They harken back to times you've played other games where you're told, oh, you've got 5 minutes to get this done, and no matter how fast you do it, at the end it says, oh, you were just a little too slow, or there's a dialogue tree and it's forcing you down a certain path, even though it gives you the illusion of choice. Undertale isn't afraid to take away your choice and give you the illusion of choice, but then say, ha, I took it away, and guess what? There was never any choice. And to that end, and in the spirit of the trolling, why not give this game a score as a work of art? What, a work of art you'd never give a number score normally? Undertale, 8 out of 10. Great work of art. It also has an excellent soundtrack, really strong melodies, and a strong feel of sort of the NES, Super NES era of gaming. The soundtrack has a lot of power and it's a lot of fun. It's not a boring soundtrack for sure. Finally, the battle system. It is very unique. It's not just a turn-based battle system. It is an It's got a rhythm game component when you're attacking. It's got a sort of puzzle solving, almost text adventure component when you're trying to convince an enemy to leave you alone instead of fighting. And when you're getting attacked, it's got almost a bullet hell shmup feel. You're controlling a little heart and avoiding incoming fire, and sometimes it can even shoot and get stuff out of your way. So it's very interesting, but I will say, hey, caveat, if you're looking for an RPG, this probably isn't the kind of gameplay you want. And it, for my wife, for instance, she loves turn-based role-playing games, but she finds this game just too much. There's too much action going on. And so it's a pro and a negative at the same time. I also have to add, I found it was more fun to be bad than good. The good side of things with the dialogue tree, picking an action and trying to convince the enemy to leave you alone, it's fun early in the game. It's fun in the middle of the game, and by the end of the game, I'm kind of getting tired of it. It's very puzzly. The whole game is very puzzly. And you switch over to the actual action fighting portion, and it's like, oh yeah, rhythm, this is simple and fun. Maybe if I'd played it that way the whole time, I'd feel differently. I did find on my very first playthrough, I tried to be peaceful, and I found out, oh, you can't. Now, I get it. When this game first came out, it would have been a surprise that you were encouraged to play peacefully. But to be honest, it's been several years. Everyone kind of knows it has the pacifist versus violent dynamic. So I found that kind of annoying. I'm going to be forced to play the game another time if I want to get the true pacifist ending. And there's a whole bunch of extra conditions that kind of annoys me too. But the game is pretty well written. It's got a good sense of humor. And it's not boring, even if it doesn't have a lot of player agency, as the developers like to say. So, get that for sure. As for replay value, the game is pretty short. I apparently got about 10 hours, although a lot of that came at the very end on the bosses. And you arguably need to play the game twice if you want to see what you get for being completely peaceful or pacifist. Personally, I found the whole experience so frustrating with all the puzzles, all the trolling jokes, that I don't know if I'll bother to play a second time, and I can almost guarantee I'm not going to finish it a third time. So the value of the game, given the length, given you could replay, but I personally didn't care to, I say it's worth about $11.70 Canadian or $9.09 US. And it really comes down to, are you interested in playing more of a video game work of art as opposed to a really great video game? Undertale is very interesting, and I enjoyed playing through it once, but I don't know if I'll ever touch it again. Let me know what you thought of the review format, and I'll see you again in another review in the future.